Hi folks, Andy Fionn here from Rambles with Robin and Ruby. This video is a return to our 2023 season when we traveled with our two grandsons, Brayden and Adrien, from Whitehorse, Yukon to Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, and then back across Canada to Ottawa, Ontario. In this video, we tackle 3 challenges. Challenge 1, to find a campsite in Jasper National Park, close to the town of Jasper, during the summer of 2023, and we had no reservations. Challenge number 2, take the Jasper SkyTram to the top of Whistler's Mountain, Jasper National Park, during a marginal weather day. And challenge number 3, boondock in the parking lot at the Columbia Icefields Discovery Centre, close to the Athabasca Glacier in Jasper National Park. Spoiler alert, we succeeded in 2 of the 3 challenges. Join us as we continue our trip with our 2 grandsons and travel from Edson, Alberta to Jasper National Park in the summer of 2023. It was a beautiful morning when we left Edson, Alberta. Our destination was Jasper National Park. The first view of the mountains in the distance is always exciting. You know you are getting close to the iconic Rocky Mountains. As we approached the entrance gate to Jasper National Park, we reminded ourselves that we had not booked a campsite. Now, I can see many of you shaking your head thinking, are you nuts? It's peak tourist season and you did not book a campsite? Well, you're right. For a number of reasons, we never knew exactly where we would be on any given night. Now that's okay if you're traveling through the remote areas of Yukon, but it's definitely not best practice when your destination is Jasper National Park during the peak summer season. Nevertheless, we thought we'd give it a shot, and we hoped there was at least one campsite vacancy that we could pick up. As if we were rewarded, we saw some Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep on the rock cut shortly after we entered Jasper National Park. Unfortunately, you aren't rewarded because you can't see the sheep in the video. But here are some photos to show you what they look like. These were composed in the Kananaskis area of Alberta. That excitement was followed shortly afterwards by a small herd of elk on the roadside. Once again, the presence of cars along the roadside was a clue that there is wildlife to see close to the road. We passed Jasper Lake, which I believe is part of the Athabasca River. There were many people wading out into the cold water, just enjoying the fine summer day. Remarkably, our luck held, and we got a campsite at Whistler's Campground, but only for one night. Well, it's Monday, August the 7th, and we are in Jasper National Park. We're actually in the Whistler's Campground, and we could only get one night. So, we're here for one night. We did go back to town of Jasper to look around and fuel up. As expected, the town was really busy. We also tried to take the SkyTram gondola to the top of Whistler's Mountain. But because of thunderstorms that afternoon, they had to close the gondola for safety reasons, and that is a good thing. We tried to get the gondola ride up to the top of the mountain, which is just sitting up there, but unfortunately, because of weather, that's the terminal. The weather was bad in the afternoon, thunder showers, and they shut down the gondola, so unfortunately, we were unable to get a gondola ride, so that'll have to wait for another year. Back at camp, we walked around the campground to get a little exercise. Brayden's going to update the map, so I will just we'll just get ready and we'll do the map update.
So today we drove from Edson. We stopped at a checkpoint right over here, right before the Rocky Mountains, and we went all the way into Jasper where we are today. I think the highlight of today was entering the Rocky Mountains. We saw tons of animals. We saw elk, mountain goats, sheep, They just immediately exploded out of nowhere once we went past the checkpoint. I think the low light would be not going up the mountain with the gondola, because that sucked. That we couldn't go up there. But weather is weather. Yeah.
My highlight today is probably seeing all the animals. I thought that was really cool. Saw some mountain goats, elks, and sheep. I thought that was pretty cool. Then the low light is probably the weather. It's supposed to be 9 degrees Celsius tonight, and that's way too cold.
The next morning, we awoke to a big weather change. The temperature had dropped to about plus 12 degrees Celsius, or 53 degrees Fahrenheit. The cloud level dropped to cover the mountaintops, and it was raining. It was a driving day to the Athabasca Glacier. The drive from Whistler's Campground to the Columbia Icefields Discovery Centre is recognized as one of the more scenic drives through the Rocky Mountains, despite the rain and low cloud. As we approached the Athabasca Glacier, we saw a park warden stop by the roadside. We found out later that he was monitoring a grizzly bear that was in the area. We arrived at the Columbia Icefields Discovery Centre parking lot, which was our boondock campsite for the night. That afternoon, the plan was to take the glacier bus tour on to the Athabasca Glacier. And then it was over. We started the return bus trip back to the information center. We also visited the Skywalk to get a different view of the area. As they say, it's not a visit for people with a fear of heights. So there's Brayden and Adrien standing on the scary edge of the earth. Shall we look over the edge? I don't want to drop my camera, so I'll do this. Can't see anything but a reflection. So that's the Skywalk. Lots of people here, and it's actually vibrating. That evening, we walked to the toe of the glacier to look at some of the geological features of the hummocky moraine and the outwash plain in front of the Athabasca Glacier. Those geological details will be the topic of a future video. Then we headed back to the Discovery Centre. We have visited the Athabasca Glacier several times over the last 30 years. The glacier tells an important story about the melting of the Athabasca ice sheet over the last 150 years, our changing climate, and the plants that are starting to grow on the rocky moraine and outwash plain that formed in front of the glacier. But those too are a story for a future video. One human and science story is shown by this photo, which shows our grandson's father, Peter, who is our younger son and is standing on the right, and their uncle Eric, our older son, who is standing on the left. The photo was composed when we visited the Athabasca Glacier back in 1993. Part of that story is told where our grandson Brayden stood in the summer of 2023, next to the marker that shows where the ice front or toe of the Athabasca Glacier sat in 1992, 31 years almost to the day after Brayden's father Peter and Uncle Eric stood on that glacier. But look where the toe of the glacier was in 2023. It is way back in the distance, about 500 meters or 1,645 feet away from Brayden. That is graphic evidence attesting to the melting of the Athabasca Glacier in the last 31 years. In fact, the glacier has melted back somewhere between 1.5 and 2 kilometers over the last 150 years. Of course, we toured the inside of the Icefields Centre, where Brayden and Adrien point out on this map where we have been and where we have left to go, from Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, back to Ottawa, Ontario. Okay, now we're going to do the drawing of the map for Tuesday, August the 8th, and it's Adrian's day, so he's going to draw the segment we did on August the 8th.
So today, with no stops, we went from Jasper all the way up to the Icefields, which is right there. Okay, so my highlight for August the 8th is probably walking on the glacier, and the low light's probably the rain.
And the glacier was named?
The Athabasca Glacier.
Athabasca Glacier. Cool.
Yep.
I think the highlight of yesterday would be going to the Columbia Icefields, sorry, and stepping on the glacier, because that was like a big goal in this trip, is to see glaciers, which you can't really see anywhere else. I think the low light would be how cold it was.
It was chilly. Plus
Yeah.
2. I understand.
Yeah, at night I wore what I'm wearing right now, plus a jacket.
Just because it was plus 2 Celsius.
Yep.
Very good. Well, that's a wrap of our grandson's quick visit to Jasper National Park, and specifically the Athabasca Glacier area. It was rainy, it was cold, but the experience of having walked on the Athabasca Glacier, the same glacier their father and uncle had walked on 31 years earlier, more than compensated for the miserable but typical mountain weather. The Athabasca Glacier destination was important. Our grandsons got to see with their own eyes one big change that is taking place on Earth, that of melting glaciers. I hope you enjoyed the video and perhaps even learned something new. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.